Welcome back to my channel Learn SST. This is the first lesson which I have made for grade 9, lesson number 1 from book 1 of MSc, the UAE Landscape and Jebel Faya. So without wasting much of the time, let's get started. So here we have the learning outcomes. To identify the path humans took to move from Africa to the Arabian Peninsula, to describe the life of ancient Jebel Faya, explain why we should preserve Jebel Faya as a cultural heritage site, describe the effect of climate on how people live, identify how people in Jebel Buhes lived in the Neolithic age, describe how we can learn about people from the Neolithic age, and the last and the most important one, identify elements of trade in the Arabian Peninsula during the Neolithic age. Now, this is the warm-up brainstorm question from the textbook. I've written down certain points which I felt was going well with this easy and challenging one. You can add some more points of your own. Before I proceed further, just a humble request as always to please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Give me a like if you have really liked my video. How is the land that is now in the UAE? The landscape of the UAE was once more greener. So this is very, fascinating to know because now it's a desert region. But earlier it was so much greener. There were lots of green pastures. More rainfall fell on the Arabian Peninsula, making the climate wetter. Evidence shows that the land that makes up the Al Hajar Mountains was under the sea, which rose to the present height through a process of tectonic plates shifting over millions of years. So, this Al Hajar mountain, once upon a time, was under the sea, and due to the tectonic, that is the inner movements which is going on and the shifting of the plates which keeps on going since millions of years has led to the rising of this Al Hajar mountain from under the sea to the surface of the earth. Now this is activity 1 from the textbook, you can go through. This is activity 2 again from the textbook, please go through. The route from Africa. According to the scientists, modern humans emerged around 2 lakh years ago in Africa and then spread around the world. Some of the earliest evidence for human movement from Africa to Middle East was found in Palestine. In the caves of Kafza and School, scientists discovered human fossils, the human remains, suggesting that humans they came from none other place than from Africa through the Nile Valley and into Palestine between 1,20,000 to 80,000 years ago. So this is what is the belief of the scientists that the modern humans they emerged 2 lakh years ago in Africa, and from Africa they spread to different parts of the world. The recent excavation at Jebel Faya in what is now Sharjah in the UAE have produced evidence. So there are proofs which is showing that the humans also traveled from Africa to the Arabian Peninsula. So there are strong evidence over here proving that the humans once upon a time they came from the region of Africa and then they came to the region of Arabian Peninsula. Why? Because of the different recent excavations which were done in Jebel Faya. Archaeologists found stone tools in Jebel Faya. So Jebel Faya is very much in Sharjah that are similar to the tools in East Africa. So the archaeologists are those people who are the scientists, those who study the remains by the excavations. So they excavate and they extract various things, the remains of the past, and with the help of those remains, they come up with certain kinds of study or findings. So over here, They found the similar tools in Jebel Faya the way they had found in East Africa. These tools included small hand axes and tools for cutting up food. Scientists determined that the stone tools were buried between about 1,30,000 and 95,000 years ago. So, what a long time ago. Now, moving on from Jebel Faya, how did the humans get to Jebel Faya and what happened to them? Traveling from Africa to Arabia today means crossing the Red Sea. So it's very much you need to cross the Red Sea, then only one can travel to Arabia. However, 1,30,000 years ago, this was not the case. The Red Sea, what it is today, with such a huge volume of water, was just very, very lower, or it meant like just crossing a small river, not a sea. That's the reason the people could easily travel on foot from Africa to Arabia by crossing the Red Sea, which is not possible on foot these days. We know from discoveries that Jebel Faya that this is one of the routes that humans took into Arabia. At that time, there was more rainfall in Arabia than there is now. So here we don't have in UAE much of rainfall the way it was earlier in UAE, say 1,30,000 years ago. How it was greener and better, it is not anymore the same now. Then the humans arriving in Arabia found grasslands, large number of wild animals. They would have been able to hunt animals with ease. So when you have the green lush forest and you have the green cover, so very much you will find the different kinds of herbivorous and carnivorous animals residing in such a region. So it becomes easy for human beings also to hunt animals. Now this is activity 3, it's a concept check from the textbook. I've written down the answers for you, you can go through. This is again activity 4 from the textbook. They have asked us the difference between Jabal Faya, the life of the people in those days and now. Activity 5 again from the textbook. It's an personal interpretation question wherein you are expected to write on your own. I have written certain points. You can add some more points of your own. Now, climate change starting in 10,000 BC. So that is 10,000 years before the birth of Christ. Birth of Christ is zero. That is from 0 to 2023. We are now in 2023. So that is after death, and BC is before the Christian era. So 10,000 years before the birth of Christ. From about 36,000 to 10,000 BCE, a thick layer of sand built up at Jebel Faya. This indicates that the climate was very dry. It is believed that the few people lived in UAE region at that time because of the harsh climate. Yes, nobody would like to live in such a region which is so hot and dry, wherein you won't find any kind of vegetation and farming activities taking place. Then there is water scarcity. So obviously nobody would like to live in such a region. In about 10,000 BCE, the climate started changing again. The area received much more rain. Scientists believe that this is because of the Indian Ocean. Monsoons moved into Arabia. How we have the monsoons now, making the region of Indian subcontinent greener and lusher. This was not the case earlier. Earlier, it was like in about 10,000 BCE, this region of UAE was receiving a good rainfall from Indian Ocean. Now the Indian Ocean is giving the rainfall. The southwest monsoon winds are bringing rains to India in Indian subcontinent. But this was not the case earlier. Earlier, Arabia was receiving the monsoons from Indian Ocean. The monsoons brought cooler temperatures and more rainfall. The land became easier to live in. The increased rainfall changed Arabia's landscape. Grasslands expanded into the interior, and people moved from place to place on a seasonal basis. People started to keep domesticated cattle, sheep, and goats. These animals provided meat, milk, and wool. The animals were kept in herds, in big, huge groups, and were moved around the land during the year depending on the weather and other natural factors. Keeping animals has always been an important part in the life in UAE. So this is what we understand over here: domestication of animals and grasslands, all those things which you can see over here, and how the animals played an important part in. Now this is activity 6, very much from the textbook. Please go through. Activity 6 continued. Now let us see Jebel Buyas in detail. The people who lived in the Arabian Peninsula, they hunted wild animals. And the wild animals were the oryx, the gazelle, and camel. So these are the three animals which we have to remember in the Arabian Peninsula, people hunting them. They developed the stone tool technologies. Now what was that technology? They chipped away both the faces of the stone blade so that it becomes a fine arrowhead, and that becomes very easy for cutting, so it had become a cutting tools for them. The period from about 8000 BC, so 8000 years before the birth of Christ, to 3000 years BC is called the Neolithic age. So you might find this particular years very strange, but there's nothing strange about it. That it is from the birth of Christ, or rather before the birth of Christ, it was in descending order. After the birth of Christ, the years are in ascending order. So it is 0 is the time when Jesus Christ was born, from 0 to 2023. Okay, so prior to it, whatever were the years were in the descending order. Stoneworking was new to the region and was accompanied by big changes in the diet of the people. So the diet also of the people started changing slowly and steadily. And the site which you'll find at Jebel Buhes in Sharjah is particularly important for understanding this period. That is the New Stone Age period. By studying the bones and the teeth found in Jebel Buhes, scientists discovered important information about the health and the diet of the people, that is UAE's Neolithic people, and what were their diet comprised of and how was their health. First of all, the women lived for an average of say 33 years, and the men to 36 years. Although this might seem very young to us today, it was normal during this period. So in the new Stone Age, this was barely the age or the lifespan of the people. For women 33 and for men 36. Now why was they dying at such a young age? The cause of the death varied. Violent attack near or just before death was more common for males, while for females the death was during the childbirth. The bones and the teeth indicated other characteristics of the life in the area during the Neolithic period. Heavy wearing on the teeth, brought about by chewing, indicates a diet which was rich in meat. So heavy wearing away means it is getting chipped away. So the teeth was getting chipped away. Why? Because the people were having a rich diet of only meat. Then there was also no evidence of vitamin or calcium deficiency because they were having a rich diet. So obviously there were no signs of such kind of deficiency, or only rare indications of severe starvation were observed in the bones. So very rarely people came across or the scientists could discover certain people dying of starvation. Rest all had a very good diet. Next is archaeologists found many fireplaces at Jebel Buhes dating between 5000 and 4000 BC. In these fireplaces, researchers found bones of sheep, goat, cattle, and hunted animals like the camels. In addition, the archaeologists found a large cemetery. So it was a huge, big graveyard at Jebel Buhes. Remarkably, the inhabitants of the Neolithic Jebel Buhes had access to better food than the people who lived in the area in later eras. So, in the later period, when the people came in this particular region, they did not have such a good diet or a rich diet the way these people had. That is the time between 5000 and 4000 BC. Next is the people buried at Jebel Buhes rarely suffered from a lack of food. They suffered violence, almost certainly because of the clashes with other communities. But they were, how was the physique? The physique was they were fit, physically fit, they were tall, and they were strong. Here comes activity 7 from the textbook. Please go through. This is activity 7 continued. Activity 8 again from the textbook. Activity 9, I couldn't have access to the video, so I was not able to give you the answers for it. Please pardon me for that. And this is activity 10. Now let us see the evidence of trade. Another important discovery made on the island of Marwa is a pot from the U.A.E period in Mesopotamia. The U.A.E period was a prehistoric period of Mesopotamia. The name derives from this place, that is Tel al-Ubaid, where the earliest large excavation of U.A.E period material was conducted in the year 1990. So the U.A.E period, which lasted from about 5300 BC to around 4000 BC. The Marwa pots dates to before 5000 BC, or it is in fact over 7000 years ago, showing that the trade was already occurring at the beginning of this period. After 5000 BC, trade with the U.A.E Mesopotamia became more common. Excavations in the U.A.E revealed very early evidence of pearling at the sites in Abu Dhabi, Al Queen, and Sharjah. There is evidence that the people were diving for pearls and using them as jewelry over 7000 years ago. We have still got this culture in UAE. So pearling is not something modern, but it's very ancient or traditional. We have very little evidence for the organization of pearling at that time, but there can be little doubt that it is required people to have special knowledge to where to find pearls and how to reach them. So that means they were well versed in this knowledge of pearling, how to find it and how one can get to those pearls. They would collect the shells and then extract the pearl if there was one. Then they could use the remaining shell known as the mother of the pearl to make decorative items like beads. In this way, the Neolithic period in Arabia marked the beginning of an industry that was to define the UAE for thousands of years to come. What a beautiful statement. So pearling, as it is mentioned over here, the pearls were extracted from the shells, and then once when the pearl was extracted, then the shell was used for making of different kinds of decorative things. So now also we find beautiful decorative items when we go to the supermarkets or we go to the gift shops. We find different kinds of beads and the shells, how beautifully the wall hangings are being made out of it. So this is not something new to UAE, but it's been done since long. This is activity 11 from the textbook. Please go through. Activity 12 again from the book. You can add few points of your own. So thank you so much for watching my channel Learn SST, and if you have really liked my video, then please give me a like, share it with your friends and relatives so that they get benefited by my videos. Do subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed as yet. So signing off with a humble request to please do so as I have requested you for the like and share and subscribe. See you next time with my new video. Till then, bye bye.